second one. All right, so I'm Virginia from MAPP 2008, and what I'm going to talk about is a little bit of a contrast, apparently, to what's happening in Australia. So I would like to talk to you about what we are measuring in our public schools here in the U.S. Um, Go ahead. So I teach junior high in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and we are a very large, primarily low-income, very diverse school district. Yet we are judged primarily on one thing, and that is our standardized test scores, right? Yet as a special needs teacher, I work with incredibly diverse children in terms of language, culture, talents, interests, character strengths, and virtues. And I feel it's extremely unfair that they're judged by two narrow numbers from a standardized test score. I mean, you can see these beautiful, rich children, and they're not two narrow numbers. Yet we as teachers are tied to these numbers because it's how we're evaluated too. So, do we teach to these tests? Yes, we absolutely do. Because what's measured is what's valued, sadly. However, I also have the opportunity to run an after-school club called Girl Power. And it's here where I get to bring in my positive psychology tools. In Girl Power, we can target the whole individual. So in Girl Power, we do activities that target connectedness, future-minded thinking, creativity, engagement, empowerment. And we see that it's working. My wonderful colleagues who do this with me and we see it every day in the behavior of the girls and their choices. They come back from the high school and talk to us about how it impacted their future in the high school, and we believe it's working. And over the years, I've shared some of my experiences with my good MAPP friends, and I've sometimes gotten the response that I got from Marty, which was, well, Ginny, that's all very nice, but are you measuring? And the answer is no, I was not measuring. Because frankly, yeah, we've all heard that. Because frankly, that type of measurement is just not in place in our public schools. It's not what's reported in the media, it's not valued, and yet perhaps it should be. And like Angela Duckworth always says, why not light a candle? So I decided I would at least measure my own students. So that's what I set out to do. And luckily, I had heard Peggy Kern speak at the IPA convention out in Los Angeles, and Peggy was introducing her newly developed measure of adolescent well-being, the EPOC measure. And EPOC is very closely aligned with the PERMA model, except that it's developmentally adjusted for adolescents. And it's a great tool, very easy to use. It's 20 questions, self-report questionnaire, a 5-point scale, and there you can see the comparison between the EPOC and PERMA. And Peggy very generously made the measure available to me, and with her help, and also along with Olivia Riffle from the Positive Psych Center, and eventually my own school data team, we created an online version that all the 8th graders took, 90 students, in the fall and in the spring. And we added in some other items that we wanted to measure, including academic performance. And I also plugged in their standardized test scores from last year and the most recent ones, just to see how that weighed out in the mix. And then Peggy ran all these wonderful analyses for me. Thank you so much, Peggy Kern, now at University of Melbourne in Australia, where all the good stuff's happening. Yes. And so we got some cool outcomes. So from time 1 to time 2, we see that the control group, the non-Girl Power group, stayed pretty consistent in their EPOC scores, which we would expect in a reliable measure, right? But the Girl Power group shows positive growth in all the areas on the EPOC. But the area where they show the most growth, significantly, Peggy says, is in academic performance. How about that? So then when we pull out the standardized test scores and looked at the percentage of students that the state considers proficient, we see a greater percentage increase in the Girl Power group, especially in the language arts area. So, also interesting. Then we had some fun correlations. When we checked what was most correlated with academic performance in the Girl Power group, okay, top thing was perseverance, as you would expect, but closely following is connectedness, optimism, and overall well-being. And what correlates most with standardized math scores is connectedness, significant. That's why it's highlighted. Peggy said it was significant. So there it is, followed again by perseverance and optimism. So pretty cool results and connections. Lots more questions to be asked and answered, but the bottom line is results like this point to the fact that we can target well-being in schools. We can easily measure it with this epoch measure, and such measurements provide a much broader view of our students and who we are as schools. And as a teacher, it makes me really happy to say that I can teach what I value, I can now measure what I value, and here I can also say I value what I measure. And there they are. And thank you very much.
Yeah, Sarah.
So excited about this. So I'm going to be working with youth as well, and so it's exciting to see, since you measured it, you're starting maybe a cascade of other individuals that want to measure the same thing. So I'm curious, one, about the use of the tool and if it can be used in younger ages. I often work with some kids that are going to be in literally third grade. And so sometimes it's very difficult to do any of these measures on some of the lower kids because they're just super cute and don't know what's going on. So is it a tool that can be used a little bit broader ages or only in middle school or
Yeah,
high school?
I would say that's really an expert question for Peggy, but I think there is some variation in it. It is developmentally targeted to adolescents, and they involve Larry Sternberg from Temple and, some real top-notch child psychologists to develop it, and it is geared to adolescents. And I, as a teacher, I would imagine you could drop it down, a few notches, but I honestly can't speak to that young. But,
Yeah.
there's the next project, right?
Lisa may have a response. So, yeah. So Lisa has used it with third, fourth, and fifth graders in the work that she's done with Soaring Horns. Congratulations.
So-
Incredible and inspiring stuff.
Yes, and everybody should try it.
Yeah, Louisa. Given how challenging it is to find time on curriculum, how do you weave
Yeah.
it into the...
I'm sorry, I left that out for you. We meet after school once a week for an hour, all throughout the school year, and we typically have about 30 girls in the group. And we bring in lots of guest speakers like my wonderful friend Sensei McCrae back there, who did self-defense with my girls. But yeah, it's pretty much all after school, and then we sneak it into the curriculum as much as possible. But you're right, that's a big problem.
Chris, I saw you had a question.
Sorry?
Chris. Oh, sorry, Louisa, clarification.
Yes, well, pretty much. We start in November and go till June. Yeah.
Chris. Chris Major also uses the Epoch with their after school program. Yeah. Sarah, did you have a question as well? No. Yeah, the back. Have you noticed any particular effects with kids with unstable home lives?
Okay, well, I also didn't mention this. We also had some items in there about a sense of basic needs being met and items like that. And there were in fact, most of my students being low income really have unstable home lives, and we did not find any correlations with those factors and their well-being, which is interesting. So yeah, but I imagine if you compared two very different groups, then yeah, you would see that. Yeah.
Support for the 50-40-10. Any other questions? How do boys sign up? What about boy power?
I know. I feel awful that I don't have boy power too, because it's just girl power is a lot, and my poor 8th grade boys every year are very disgruntled when this happens. And but there's a little bit of contagion. You know, sometimes they go to the soccer field and have their own secret boy meeting while we're having our girl meeting. So there is, you know, there's a little contagion factor at least.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.